Hello there, fellow travelers. I'm Tim from SIGURD Books here with a quick book review for you guys. This time I'm going to be talking about The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was one of my priority reads for 2025, so I was really excited to check it out. I picked it up and knocked it out real quick just last week. And another priority read of mine for this year was the translation of Beowulf by J.R.R. Tolkien. And so I assumed that, much like Beowulf, this was going to be a translation. I didn't know much about the characters of Sigurd and Gudrun going into this, but I did know that they were prominent figures from the Poetic Edda, which is the sort of grand, epic narrative poem from which we get a lot of what we know about ancient Germanic mythology. And so I assumed that this book would be J.R.R. Tolkien translating some of those lines and stanzas into his own words. But what this actually is a collection of two original compositions, two original poems written by J.R.R. Tolkien about Sigurd and Gudrun, written in a similar style to the prose Edda. Tolkien kind of borrowed the structure of the lines and stanzas from the Poetic Edda and kind of fit them around his own original verses. And so that's what this book is. And much like a lot of the bibliography of Professor Tolkien that we read today, I don't think these poems were originally meant to see the light of day. Tolkien did a lot of writing for his own entertainment. He was a big fan of languages and writing in general, and he wrote some stuff to be published, but a lot of stuff was not meant to be published. It was just meant to stay in his study and just entertain him. But of course, Christopher Tolkien, who edited this volume, he just had to get his father's work out into the open. So that's where we get the legend of Sigurd and Gudrun. Now, what is this book all about? Well, like I said, it contains two narrative poems, both of which tell the story of the Volsunga, also known as the Volsung clan. Now, back in the ancient days, the time of heroes and monsters, the Volsungs were a clan of demigods. They were the mortal descendants of the Aesir, the gods of Norse mythology. And in fact, their forebearer, Volsung himself, was the grandson of Odin. And so these two poems tell the story of the lives and deaths of Volsung, his son Sigmund, his son Sigurd, also known as Siegfried in modern German, and Sigurd's wife Gudrun. And it has all of the stuff that you would expect from epic Norse mythology. It has monsters, it has demons, it has witches and gods and dragon slayers. It's got people making pacts and then stabbing each other in the back. It's got people falling in love with each other, falling in love with the right people and the wrong people, being tricked into marriages with people they didn't want to be married to and having to weasel their way out of it. It's got all that kind of stuff that really inspired fantasy as we know it today, and it's all written in J.R.R. Tolkien's wonderfully crafted English. If you've read any of his books, you know what I'm talking about. If you remember the poems and songs that he wrote in The Lord of the Rings, you know what to expect from this. It's just beautiful. There's some words in here that are pretty archaic. I had to look up quite a few of them, but it's beautifully, beautifully written. Now, the downside to this is that these two poems make up a pretty slim portion of this book. I'd say there's only about 100 or so pages worth of poetry. The rest of this book is supplementary notes and two big ol' introductions, one by Tolkien himself and another by his son Christopher, who edited this book, may I remind you. And it's all very academic, and it's kind of dry, and I know that Tolkien loved language. I know he loved getting into the minutia of how language works and how it pertains to culture and mythology, but I'm really not interested in all that. Not all that much, at least. And so, reading through the notes was really kind of dull, and I ended up skimming a lot of it just so I could get to the poetry. But like I said, the poetry is awesome. I can't recommend this book enough just for the sheer epic scale of the poetry. And it's very interesting seeing all the different elements in the story of the Volsunga, of Sigurd and Gudrun. It's got dragons guarding heaps of gold. It's got magic rings that people are obsessed over. It's got a hero wielding a magic sword forged from the shattered remains of another magic sword wielded by one of his forefathers. You can really see the kind of stuff that inspired Tolkien's own fantasy, as well as the fantasy that we have nowadays. So yeah, if you're a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's writing, you owe it to yourself to give this a read. I'd say that even if you're just a general fan of fantasy, you'd still enjoy this, and so long as you enjoy poetry like I do. Though, again, you might want to steer clear of all the supplemental stuff. If you are into linguistics and picking apart the minutia of language and translations, this will be probably one of your favorite books. But if not, then yeah, you might want to do what I did. Just kind of give those notes and introductions a passing glance, and then just dive into the poetry and really enjoy the epicness of it. But that's all for now, guys. Let me know in the comments, as always, have you read The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun by J.R.R. Tolkien? What did you think of it? And until next time, guys, as always, farewell and keep reading.